Hello and welcome to another episode of the Laura Sanzo podcast with your host, Laura Sanzo. Everyone's perception of the world is different based on their model of the world, and her goal is to celebrate that by building the most inclusive self-development podcast. Laura and her guests share their stories and share invaluable strategies from the world of science, spirituality, business, health, personal relationships, and everything in between. We cover it all. Get inspired, learn to welcome adversity, understand that failure is only feedback, and get ready to hear discussion on some of the most important issues facing us today. Enjoy the episode.
Hey, Laura, how are you doing?
I'm good, Jenny. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm really happy that we are here having this conversation. I think when we spoke the other week, we said it's been almost a year since we last connected, and it's wild how the time flies and so much can change and shift. I'm really looking forward to today's conversation because I think it's a really important one, not just for people who are in service, who are coaches, who are in the wellness industry, offering their gifts and their zones of genius to the world, but also for potential clients and people who are looking to, grow in themselves and transform their lives and look at how they've been showing up in the past and choose how they would like to show up in the future. So hopefully this gives everybody a little bit of an insight, a really honest, raw conversation. I'm really excited. I'd love for us to start on the idea that, 2020 came and it hit the world. We've heard it 1,000 times. Everything got shaken up. And there was a lot of generous people out there, a lot of people creating free content, giving things away, doing things to support communities and support the world really get through like the biggest struggle that we've seen in a really, really long time. And this was a really beautiful thing. But what I'm sensing nowadays is that free content, I feel, is actually causing us a little bit more harm than we would like to see. I don't know if there's anything that comes to your mind when I say that. I'm curious about your thoughts on that.
I agree. And just to circle back to a point that you made before we started recording, for those of us that show up in servantship through content, especially those of us like yourself and myself who have invested a lot of time and money into our own growth and are able to pay it forward, not only to our clients, but to our communities, that takes a lot of time. Just not even so much creating that content, but building those relationships, answering the DMs, that whole piece of it, which is very much part of what we do and how we show up in servantship. But that in itself, we are doing for free.
Yeah.
Right? Regardless of the platform that people choose to use, it doesn't really matter. It's, it's the same ideal in terms of the time that we invest in doing it. And we're doing it from a place of servantship with nothing in return, right?
Yeah.
And so in terms of what we provide and how we serve and what we're about and our messaging, people could find that through any of the platforms that we show up on. And so I think for people to have an expectation to have something at no cost in addition to that is where that fine line comes into play. And the reality is this: when people invest in themselves, they're going to show up differently. So if they're signing up for a workshop or a training or whatever that is, just from my experience, if they have not invested any financial currency to it, more than likely they're not even going to show up. And if they do show up, they're just showing up at a different vibration as the version of themselves that had invested some type of financial energy exchange. It doesn't even have to have been like, anything crazy. So I think it really comes down to we are taking away from people the opportunity to expand by investing in themselves.
Yes, that makes so much sense. And I can Yeah, even if I look and reflect on my own behaviors when it comes to free content in the past, and even small amounts, right? Like if I've paid $11, $22, if I'm tired and it's a Wednesday night and it's a masterclass and there's a recording available, I'm
Yeah.
probably not going to attend live, which of course impacts the whole vibration of that offering.
Yeah.
And then I might watch the recording. But I think we can all agree that when you watch recorded content, the energy is different. You are not
100%.
as attentive, like you've got your phone right next to you. And so again, that value and what you were saying, we're taking away that opportunity for our growth and to really commit and devote ourselves to what is happening in front of us. So yeah, I really liked what you said there. And you know, how do I say this? We are providing a lot of content. Like you said, there's a lot of platforms where content is available. And we do that as part of our marketing, as part of our service to support people and potential clients to get to know who we are, to hear our voice, to connect with our brand, to see if we are also the right energy for them, because we're not for everybody. Like everybody's not for me, everybody's not for you. And that's perfect. And that's why, scarcity and saturation for me doesn't exist, because we are also different and unique. But how the world has progressed over the last couple of years, it definitely feels like people in service, and with these platforms like Instagram, we have become full-time content creators, as
Mm-hmm.
well as actually trying to create the high impact, being high service, which comes from having services and products where people exchange it's a financial investment and it's an exchange. And there's been a bit of I don't know if this is necessarily true. This is just kind of what's coming through in my mind, but looking at these services, it's almost like maybe some people don't see the difference that you responding on your DMs is your working time, because
Yeah.
everybody's using it for entertainment, for connection, for social. So it is that fine line of like, are people seeing, if I'm posting on my story, yes, it might be me at the gym, drinking a coffee, out with my husband, but I'm posting so that people can connect with me and understand my business and my brand. So I think there is a bit of maybe a re-education that maybe will happen in the future around how we're showing up online, or how people are perceiving how we're showing up online. Yeah. I feel like I went on a really big tangent. I don't know if that made sense.
No, 100%. And so a couple of things that came up while you were speaking was, one, like, I'm not a business coach. Do I guide people through their businesses? Yes. But from what I've learned through working with business coaches, or coaches that, solely identify themselves as business coaches, like, having a freebie as a lead generator, it's a good business decision, right? But it has strategy attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
And with something else, when you were talking about the DMs, for anybody that's going to listen to this, that is a coach or a healer in some type of servantship, I think is the boundary piece, where at a certain point, that conversation needs to be able to be redirected to, this is what I work with my client, or this is how I work with my clients. Are you open to booking, even if it is like a complimentary kind of energy exchange, but at least we've set some type of boundary that we're not just going to just continually be giving our time. There has to be somewhere that's a boundary where we put on that entrepreneur hat and we're able to redirect people to our services.
Yes. So powerful, actually. And that's just reminded me of a conversation I had earlier with a friend around when I first got into business. So 2.5 years ago, I was doing so much for free. And I was giving things because it felt like, oh, but it's a service. And I want to help. And I wanted to help so badly with all of my heart. And people would message and I would give people tips and I would invite people like to come to my breathwork classes. And like, I was giving so much for free. But by doing that energetically, I was harming my business because I wasn't holding my business in its highest.
Yes.
I wasn't holding that as, this is my livelihood. This is what pays my bills. I am grateful that I have found this purpose and that I'm able to be of high service, but high service doesn't mean that everything gets to go for free. In the same way, a product, you wouldn't be able to go into a store and just take a product because, the owner felt, I mean, sometimes people are generous, but like you couldn't do that to everybody. Otherwise you would have no store. And it's the same with coaching, with service-based businesses. If we just keep giving away, we're giving away our energy and we end up empty and tired and exhausted and can't pay the bills,
Exactly. You won't show up the same way as the practitioner or such. And I think, we're going to talk about the pricing and that piece of it, but I think it really comes down to just a collective of that money mindset, that financial blueprint, how much work we as a collective have to do when it comes to money. Just what's one thing that's coming up for me, there's a fitness influencer, what have you. I think she's Australian, doesn't really matter. She does incredible like Pilates videos and such, right? On YouTube. Like she gives a lot of free content, like continuously. She also has an app that she works off. So in her YouTube videos that she continually gives in terms of the workouts, she'll talk about like products that she's affiliated with and something that a lot of influencers do. And then I was just Googling just in terms of the results piece of her programs and such. And I got like just, bombarded with a lot of messaging of like, oh, she's really good, but she just does a lot of selling and, she's always selling products. And so I think it's just, again, that collective of how we interpret it selling and how there's like a negative narrative around selling. And so it's okay that she gets lots of her own, she has to put these workouts together, and she's also always filming for her app, so it's in addition to, so that's okay to consume that piece. But then when she starts to talk about products that I'm sure uses and makes profit from to be able to refer them, people get a little like uncomfortable with that.
That is a really, really big point and really interesting point. There is, this, and I had a big process around selling, first coming into my business. Selling is of high service. And when we are selling like if we believe in our product and we believe in what we're doing and our mission here on the planet, like selling really, when it comes from the heart, it can be of high service. There is absolutely sleazy sales tactics, like things that don't feel good. Like I've experienced this before where it feels very pushy and very like quick, need to get you in the door, like give me your money. Whereas for me personally, like the sales process needs to be a little bit softer, and I like to have choice. So the last training I did last year, we had the call. She told me how much it was going to cost. She was like, don't tell me now. I don't want you to tell me now. Go away and think about it for 2-3 days and then come back and tell me. And this for me, especially when it was a very large investment, this for me felt really, really good. But selling is also why we're here, and just to your point, like this narrative that we have that selling is bad, like you don't see the advert on TV for the next cereal or whatever and think that advertising is bad. But because it's coming from a person of service, for some reason that shifts. And I'm not sure if that's other people's projections because they would rather be doing something different with their lives, or they see something in this person that they judge within themselves. And so they're trying to find something. It could be a little bit of that, but I think changing this narrative is going to be so critical going forward, and that people will learn to trust themselves when they feel that when someone is selling, it's a service, when someone is selling and it's sleazy. And remember that they are in full sovereignty to say yes or no. To like listen and say, actually, I don't want that product, but hey, thanks for letting me know. Like, we have that power within us. And just kind of like on someone's selling, I think is not really fair either.
And if it's a service or a program or a coach, like a specific coach that you want to work with, it may be out of your budget. Instead of saying, well, they're too expensive or who they think they are charging these rates or such, but really flipping that mindset and saying, okay, what do I need to do to be able to afford that?
Yeah.
Or to become the version of myself that's just easy and effortless to invest in a 4 or 5 figure program or investment or such.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think especially in like the industry where we are supporting people with their personal and spiritual growth, like you are your best asset. You are your most important asset. And when you settle for you, I feel like you're doing such a disservice to yourself.
Yeah.
I can share a little example. It's like a personal example. So right now I've been having a lot of stomach issues since I burnt out. I think a lot of stuff happened in my system and it's still not quite right. And I would say that for the last 5 years, I've been living on some level of discomfort. And I just got used to it. And I was like, you know what? Like, it's totally cool. It's fine. Like, yeah, twice a week, I feel like crap. Like, I get bloated. I'm not feeling amazing.
Yeah.
And I've just become accustomed to the discomfort that it feels normal. And so how I live my life now, I think my energy levels are normal. I think like the way that my skin is normal, like how things are hormonal. I just like, it's so normal. And I recently made a decision because I have a friend who is a functional nutritionist person, and we had talked about it. And so I went for a consultation with her, and she told me like the cost of what it is for like the initial test, and it's about 450 euros. And she said most people won't go forward with that. They'll go, it's that much to get tested so that
And
people
this is
can
your health.
exactly, so that to understand your microbiome.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, okay. And she was like, okay, that she's like, but then after that, we'll see what the test results come back like. And also I really like the way that she works because she's not promising results and she doesn't know how long it's going to take, but she's going to be there by my side, supporting me with her knowledge every step of the way. And we're going to try things together, see how I feel, see what makes a difference, if I need to get other tests, all of that kind of stuff. And she was like, just so you're aware, it may be another 700 euros or so for the supplements. And I was like, it's my health. Like, it's okay. I'm here to invest that because I know that when I start to feel better, I'm going to be shocked at how crappy I've been feeling the last 5 years and not done anything about it. And I think that same, like this can be applied to personal, not just like health in terms of physical health, but your emotional health, your mental health, your spiritual health, that it's so easy for people to settle with what is and not invest, and invest instead in behaviors that are maybe coping or numbing out or distracting from the truth of who they really are and the truth of what they really want in their lives. And hopefully I think more and more people are waking up to that, but it's just now it's crossing that barrier of taking that first step to invest, taking that first step to say, yes, I am worthy of spending this much money on myself, and changing the mindset to know that this is okay. Just to add to that, my first investment, it was 125 euros. I went to like a desire map weekend workshop thing in Vienna. And that was my first investment in myself. It was 125 euros. And last year we were talking like high five figures. Like it was a huge investment in myself. And so you gradually build as your nervous system also expands with what you're willing to hold to invest, because jumping in straight away and saying, you know what, I'm going to invest 10 grand right now, that's going to be a lot for a lot of people. But starting smaller is going to feel better. Like it maybe feels like a little bit of a stretch, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it when it comes to you, because there's just one you.
100%. when we're in a place of servantship, we can't expect others to invest in us if we're not willing to invest in ourselves. And I was in my 30s when I invested in my first coach. Like, I wasn't a young person. And I can 100% without a doubt say that any shifts that started to happen for me was when I made that investment. And, and I don't think it had even anything to do with the coach itself or the program at all, to be completely honest with you. It was just that act of that investing. It's almost like the universe is like, oh, this person is willing to invest in themselves. Let's reward them.
Yeah, absolutely. As soon as you say yes to you, there's a huge energetic shift that happens.
Yeah.
And sometimes we feel like, oh, I invested and I don't see any changes right now. And in those moments, it's trusting that, like, you've already said yes. So based
Yeah.
on what patterns have been happening for however many years, like, there's a little bit of rearranging, like new paradigm creation happening in the background, that you just like give it a little bit of time, like a little bit. It's going to come.
Yeah.
It's just rewiring, like, these old ways of thinking and this old lens that you viewed the world. We have to, like, love ourselves through those moments, and it always comes through. Like, I've never had an experience of investing in myself where I was like, that was a waste of money. There was
Yeah.
always something that I learned, even if I finished and 6 months later I reflected and I was like, maybe that wasn't like the best course I could have done, or maybe I don't feel this coach anymore. Totally fine. It was perfect for what I needed in
Exactly.
that moment, for that version
Yeah.
of who I was.
I think on the flip side of that, like, coaches are always evolving as well.
Mm,
So you may not even be ready for that person yet.
yeah. Yeah. Good
So,
point.
I think it just really comes down to that ideal client and the notion of like attracts like. So are you who your ideal client is? You can expect to attract somebody who is consistent if you're not being consistent, right? So I think we just need to just take a real look at ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's also another big part from the coaching and the service provider side is, and maybe this, okay, let's go here for a second. I've been thinking a lot, like, I want on the money topic, on what we
Yeah.
charge, on what feels comfortable. When it comes to deciding what prices you want to charge, again, for me, this is body based. So
Yes.
does it feel really good?
I just wrote down has to feel good.
Yeah, there we go. Does it feel good to charge that amount? Can I justify that to myself? Like, can I look at that and be like, yes, I am worth that
Mhm.
investment because I've done enough of my own work and all of that. There are coaches out there who charge enormous amounts of money. And I think this is also another piece to this kind of charging, selling, that, okay, let's say you go to, if you look at the price of something, whether it's a hotel, maybe you're looking at hotels, you can't even see pictures. Like, you don't even know
Yeah.
what the picture is. Maybe there's a 500 euro a night hotel. There's an 80 euro a night hotel. You can switch that for dollars if you like. And there's like a 225. Which hotel are you going to choose?
Mm.
You're probably not going to take the cheapest hotel, because you'll be like, I'm not, of course, unless you're on a budget and that is what is within your budget.
Yeah.
If the really expensive one is also not in your budget, you're going to go for the middle one. And this is another part of this, like, understanding selling, understanding how your perception of money is and how your perception of what is valuable is, and then deciding what you are worth to invest in. And you might say, you know what, I'm worth $1 million. And if I had $1 million, I'd invest $1 million. And you know what? Yes, you are worth $1 million and more, but investing in yourself in a level that is available to you. I don't believe in telling people to go get a loan or anything like that to invest in themselves. I think it
Yeah.
has to be what's available to them now. And to your point earlier, to loop back to that, if it's not available to, and it's somebody that you really want to work with, like, okay, like get manifesting, use those freebies that you've acquired, get all that free content. Don't just scroll through. Like if someone's giving you 5 steps to blah, 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 start taking action with the content that you have already, so you can start to make shifts, so that you're open to possibilities, and you just never know what's going to happen. You don't have to be in an industry where you get to set your amounts to earn a certain amount. You can be manifesting that promotion. You can be deciding that like insurances are going to go down, or you're going to find a new insurance provider that gives you X amount of cash back. Like money can come in all sorts of ways.
And I think also know that like we're running businesses. So just the same way that the cost of living rises in every other industry, we too raise our prices. So whether it's somebody that's going to be receiving or giving, I think it's important to give yourself permission to give yourself a raise, because especially when you're not, or when you are an an entrepreneur, where you're not necessarily going to get a raise from an employer. When it feels good to, again, it has to feel good, of course. Give yourself permission to raise your prices, especially if you are continually investing in yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're continually investing in yourself, energetically, you're going to expand. So there's going to come to a point. There's going to come a point where your current pricing is just not going to feel good anymore.
Absolutely.
That's just, if you're expanding yourself, that is going to happen. There's just, it's like the same way in terms of when people around us, just we feel like we expand beyond our current inner circle. Same thing with pricing. So give yourself permission, and I could promise you that when you do, you yourself are going to show up different in your sessions or in your whatever that looks like on your calls.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, for those listening that are coaches, that are people in service who do get to set their own prices. How do you, like, what advice would you give someone to show up for themselves during these moments where people may be saying that they charge too much or it's too expensive?
This actually just happened to me this week. And, just to circle back what you said when you started practicing, how you were just, and we all experience that, just to be grateful to be able to start using the tools we have. So I was the same way when I first started practicing. I was actually asking people what they wanted to pay. Like, hello, it's not like anybody, my cable company isn't going to be like, what do you want to pay this month? Right. So I think we all do that, regardless of, even if we're working with business coaches. I think it's just something that we do because we're just so happy to be in servantship. And so now I have a very concrete list that I affirm every single day. Like, it's part of my energy work of affirming this list of who my ideal client is. And so and I kind of use who I'm attracting in as a gauge. So if I'm attracting in somebody that is saying that my pricing is too expensive or anything around that narrative, I know that I still have work to do, because I have not energetically reached the limit to be able to attract in, the person that's going to be like, oh yeah, 4 figures, that's like nothing. And not to take away from the fact that 4 figures is 4 figures, but, they just understand the value of investing themselves. So that is how I gauge it, in the sense of I take ownership and I'm at cause. So if I'm attracting people that think that my pricing is too expensive, I know that there's work that I still need to do. I'm not even concerned about that person. They obviously have their own money work to do. When somebody that says that, they're the ones that need the coaching, right? More than anybody else, and that's fine. That's their journey, and to be on. But I just look in the mirror and I'm like, okay, so where do I need to continue to work on my own programming?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, yeah, you continue.
No. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really love your answer, because it is just a beautiful reminder that we are in charge. Like, we are so in charge of how things are in our reality. And so to, receive a potential client who believes in their reality that what you charge is too much, that you didn't take this as a, first of all, personal, or
Yeah.
that, oh, well, maybe I should, like, question yourself, which I think happens when we're out of alignment and we haven't felt into pricing, and we, like, with our nervous systems, and
Yeah.
like, you didn't turn it back on you to be like, oh, did I do something wrong? Should it be? You were like, okay, I got work to do, because these people are still in my field. And, like, no disrespect to that. It's not about, again, it's not personal. It's just saying that's not what I'm a match to anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a beautiful reminder that we all need.
And I also want to preface that by saying that, you know, if there was somebody that I had worked with prior, or they had really showed me how committed they are to themselves, then obviously there's different conversations that can be had, right? So
Right.
it's not like that, it's like, black and white per se. But I think also it's that commitment piece as well. It's like, how committed are they in themselves? If they're not showing that they're not committed themselves, then in addition to that, they're not open to investing in themselves financially, then it's just, I guess, it's your soul client. Is this what you want to say yes to? Because then, and when we talk about vibration, if you vibrationally are, working with people to prices that don't feel good, or having to chase them to, like, for payment and, that kind of piece, then you're no way on the vibration to attract people that are open to investing 4 or 5 figures in you. You know what I mean? So at some point we need to just look at that vibration piece.
Yeah, that's so important. And that goes to both sides, right? So both for the providers and for the people who are looking for the support to be a match, to find the support that they need, that is within the realms of what is, like, available, affordable, that feels good for them, to do their energetic work, so that they never know, maybe they open Instagram the next day and there's a sponsorship ad for that person that's exactly the right kind of person that they need, that's within their budget and that they resonate with. So I think it's a beautiful two-way practice.
And to your point, to the hotel metaphor that you use, like, do you want to be known as the cheapest coach out there, or do you want to be known for the results that you generate? Right. And, we've had this conversation prior, but at some point, and I'm sorry, this doesn't feel good for some people to receive, but, there's still a huge gender, or, a gap in that gender equality when it comes to wages. And I don't think it's any different in the coaching business. So would somebody question a man that is charging $10,000 for his program the same way they would question a woman? Right. So, it's not the most comfortable situation, but it's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. I do see there's still a big divide. And even in the, let's say, the spiritual realms, where people are providing things like sound bowl healing and yoga and breath work, even though there are more women, and I can only really speak to men and women at this point because I don't know any kind of figures or facts around the non-binary, but
Yeah.
in terms of men and women, I know that there's much more women in the space, yet it does feel quite often that a lot of the prominent figures are men. I mean, I would say it's a bit more balanced than, like, the rest of the industries, but there's definitely feels like there's more of a pull towards men, and women are still doing their work to charge what they're worth, to know their worth, to take up the space, to have a voice, to be on stage, to speak, because, previously we weren't even allowed to be in charge of money,
And
so
no,
there's a lot.
100%. And I think historically, just in things that I've done in the past, because I was a certified makeup artist a few years ago, and it was the same kind of ideal, in the sense of, there was such an unbalanced scale of what women were charging. So it seems to be in industries that are very prominent in women, that there's this like women not feeling good about charging their worth. So maybe it is essentially work that we need to do as a collective, as women.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, we unleashed things that we weren't even planning.
I know, like we went on a whole, like, I love it. I would love to just kind of like give a personal summary, and then I'd love to hear your summary like on top of that. So
okay.
Freebies are great. Freebies are a great entry point. We love freebies. Use them as you want to use them. Sign up for whatever you want to sign up for. But remember that freebies are not just out of the kindness of people's hearts. People are running businesses. There is a business behind it. There is a strategy. And so there's going to be a selling piece at some point. And we need to shift the narrative around how we receive selling. You know, to be honest, I used to be a little bit like this as well. Like, selling. I feel like, why are you all selling? If I want it, I'm going to come and buy it. But the reality is, not everybody's like that. We do need to sell and remind people like what we have to offer, how people can work with us. And they get to choose whether they want to work with us based on that free content. Like the free content is there as value, and free content can be an Instagram post, a YouTube video, a PDF to download about whatever, the podcast. This is free content. Anything that is taking our time to create that we're not receiving a payment for is free content. So I think that's kind of like the first piece. The second piece is around investing in yourself based on what's in resonance with your nervous system and feeling into those prices and knowing that you are your best asset. And so I'm not saying that to say, well, you need to go and spend 4 figures right now immediately on a coach, otherwise your life is over. But what I'm saying is like, explore it and be open to go and have a look and check with people, like see what the prices are. I know that a lot of coaches don't advertise their prices. I advertise mine because I just want to be straight up. This is what it is. Like, here we go. But take responsibility for yourself to go and have conversations with people and feel into what is right. You will know if you resonate with someone's work, if you follow them for even a month, because I'm sure they provided a lot of free content in a month. Go and see if you resonate with someone before making a decision to take it one step further to explore investing, and invest when it feels right. But know that they're charging what they believe they're worthy of, and we have to respect that as well. And I think that is for people who are charging, feel into what feels good for you to charge, know your worth, hold yourself, do your work. We are here to be of high service, and we have to sell for that, and we have to do our work, and we have to invest in ourselves, and we have to run a business. That's my little summary.
I love that. And I'm just gonna just continue and play off what you just said. I think, a couple of things in terms of my takeaways and a couple of call to actions, like I said, to play off what you just said. I think, there comes a time in our businesses we need to decide, are we running a business or do we have a hobby? Right.
Yes.
And also at the same time, lead into what people are seeing. So are people interpreting what you have as a hobby or a business? Because that's going to also determine how inclined they are to invest in you. And my takeaway is, I think, that ideal client piece. So if I had to give one call to action for anybody that's listening that is in a place of servantship and offers services of any kind, really get crystal clear on who that ideal client is. And not from a perspective of I know if somebody's working with a business coach, they're going to do this type of work and who you talking to and who's your niche. And I don't mean it from that perspective. I mean it from an energetic perspective of who do you really want? Who's your soul client? Who do you really want to serve? And then really turning that around and asking yourself, is that how you're showing up every single day? And this could even lean into other areas outside of that professional bias and into personal as well, but that's a whole different podcast. But who do you want to be serving? Are you showing up as that person? If not, then that you continually have, and we always have continual work to do, but just to continue that work. And then as long as you're doing that and you're not even settling, I don't know if that's the right narrative, but staying true to what Jenni said in terms of what feels good and feeling aligned, those clients will come. They will. There's energetically, there's absolutely no reason why they won't come and you won't have the results that you want. But that starts with you. It doesn't, starting a business and thinking the floodgates are going to open. It really is looking within and being like, okay, what work do I need to do? Okay, I want to start charging $10,000. Okay, what do I need to do? Who do I need to be working with?
Yeah. And what version of me is ready for that? Who do I need to become? One thing I'd like just to bounce off what you said is, we talk a lot about our soulmate clients. Like you said, however many business things I've been through, soulmate clients, and how old are they? And do they have a dog? And do they have how many, for me, I'm about niching down, but there's a certain level of niche where I just need to stop. And I think, to your point, the energetics are really important in terms of that needs to be more aligned, rather than if Susie's husband is whatever and has 2 kids and a Highland Terrier, that's less important, and it's more about the energy. But also to remember that if you're a business owner, you will be waiting for your soulmate clients, but also you selling and being of high service shows the soulmate clients where you are their soulmate coach. You are their soulmate service provider. There is somebody out there waiting for you that only you can offer, because there's only one you. So again, putting ourselves in a position of not of scarcity, or saying that we're desperate, or we're waiting for all of these people to come to, no, take your power. I'm here, and there's some people over there who I know are my soulmate clients, and there's some people over here who I know are manifesting me. So here I am, this is what I have, let's do this. Yeah.
And I love that. And just to that point, talk about what you do, what you offer. You can't expect people to lean into what you do if they don't even know you're at service. And I think, and we're all guilty of this in some form. It was only recently that I started in my messaging on social media saying that this investment is a 4-figure investment. You know what I mean? And that's what I needed to work through. That had nothing to do with anything except for the fact that I needed to expand enough to be able to allow myself to tell people that this is a 4-figure investment. And this is who my intention is to attract in, right? But it doesn't even have to be at that scale. But people need to know you're in business. Yeah.
And I think just to add, it's always just to add to that, just to add to that, just to add to that, because it's so good. I felt for a really long time, I'd write this post and I'm inspirational and there's some action points, and I'm really happy. And then at the bottom, I have some spaces for private coaching if anyone, and I feel it for a long time, it didn't come through organically. And now I'm I have space. Hey,
I love it.
I have space. And I think because it was a judgment. It was an internal thing, because I used to read other people's posts and be ugh, and then they're selling something at the end. Of course they're selling something. Like you said, they have a business. And I think the more that we can all overcome that fear around that someone's going to judge us if we sell something, actually that's more about that person, that says more about that person and the things that they need to work through than it does for us. And if that's how they're feeling, it's probably not in alignment for them to work with us anyway. So win-win.
Well, yeah. And if your ideal client is somebody that sees the value of investing, even 4 figures in themselves, because most group coaching grouping sessions or programs will be about 4 figures, because they run over multiple months. Chances are those people are in a place of selling as well. Whether it's real estate or even if they're CEOs, they've had to sell themselves essentially to be able to get to that position. So that's why they don't interpret selling as something that's dirty. So I think it really all boils down to, again, like the growth and expansion that we're doing and attracting in those people that have that same ideal and such.
Yeah, I love it. This was so fun. This was such
So
a great
good.
conversation. And I really hope for everyone listening that you took something out of this or were offered, a word or a sentence here and there to give you something to think about, a new perspective, perhaps, a new way to look at selling, a new way to look at investing in yourself. So thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you so much. So much fun.
I'm going to put, of course, all of your details in the show notes and all of the things. But yeah, this was so cool.
And, even if I just think about some of my own clients, like, one of them sells insurance. So this is something that she can use as well, because it's not necessarily her own service that she's selling, but it's the same mind space that you need to have. People in network marketing, all these different things.
Yeah. So cool. Amazing. Right. Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of the evening. Sorry again, I was a little late. I apologize for that.
You're good. I'm just going to stop the recording.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed that episode of the Laura Sanzo podcast. Thank you to our guests. To stay connected to host Laura Sanzo, follow her at I am Laura Sanzo or at the Laura Sanzo podcast on Instagram. To learn more about Laura, go to www.laurasanzo.com.